Greetings, friends of the apocalypse. This is Jared the Apocalypse Nerd, Wallace, and Adam Scott Glancy coming to you from Podcaster Ground Zero. It's episode 14, and we're going to be talking about the Fallout game series this week. And
because we're lazy, and it was the easiest thing in the world for us to talk about.
Okay, I'll give you that. But well, no, I mean we haven't talked about it yet, but it's a pretty big apocalyptic thing going on in the last 3, 4, 5 years since when did Fallout 3 come out? About 4 years ago.
Fallout 3 was 2008.
So 5 years
so it's
ago.
going on, yeah, and but original Fallout's 2000. I'm sorry, original Fallout's 97.
Yeah, so they've been around for a while. They've been pretty influential. So we're going to be talking about the Fallout game series and maybe even its sire, the Wasteland. So we'll talk about that, 'cause where it all came from apparently. First thing we'll touch on a little bit is a little bit in the news, okay? And folks, just to let you know, we're going to try not to be ignorant and divisive in our podcast, okay?
I wouldn't count on it, though.
I wouldn't count on it. Actually, you know what? Before we do the news, I am going to make a statement. I just want to make a statement for those of you who have been watching, those of you who haven't been watching. Just to
how will we make a statement to those who haven't been watching?
I don't know. I'm going to try.
All right, you bastards know who you are who aren't listening.
Who aren't listening. Just want to reemphasize what the spirit of the show is, okay? This is a couple of guys, me and Scott, who have a passion for the genre and have always had one. And we have these kind of conversations in real life all the time. So we just decided to take it on air and to share it with the world because we're, egotistical, okay? Because we think our opinions are important.
Narcissistic. We need to be the center of everything.
Need to be the center of attention. So again, this is just a couple guys discussing what they like, okay? And sometimes we bring on people we might find interesting, like to talk about it more, okay? And remember, whatever we talk about, these are our opinions, okay? Whether they're right, whether they're wrong, whether they're intellectually created or just pulled out of ignorance, it doesn't fucking matter. It's our opinion. Now, if you have a different opinion, great. Okay, is your opinion right or wrong? I don't know. But this is our opinion, and...
Do you know nothing about the internet? Don't you know that everyone's opinion is a perfect little snowflake? And is always correct and should be defended with like terminal violence. I mean,
it should be. But basically, I'm saying is, you know what? If you like it, great, watch. If you don't watch us. Pound sand. I don't give a shit, And if you think you can do a better job, start your own little podcast.
For God's sakes, get out there and knock yourselves out.
Knock yourselves out, okay? That's all I'm saying. It's like, because we've had some trolling activity. People don't like what we say. And you know what? That's great. You have a different opinion. Good for you, But I just want to make people aware of the spirit of the show. It's just a couple of guys and our opinions.
Well, that will clearly stop the trolls. I think this appeal to rationality and reason is exactly the sort of things that douchebags on the internet immediately respond to. So, mission accomplished.
Yeah. Yes, and you know what? Actually, you know how I can control the trolls?
How's that?
By deleting their posts.
Oh! Hey! That's because you're a tyrant.
Or not approving them. Hey! Because guess what? I hold all the power here. So fuck you. All right?
Okay, there you go. We're censoring tyrannical monsters.
Yep.
There you go.
So anyway,
welcome to the apocalypse.
Welcome to this is our apocalypse. Just walk away, and I spare your lives. Okay, I am the Lord Humongous of this podcast. Okay.
Speaking of which, didn't you name your Fallout character Lord Humongous?
One of them.
Okay.
One of the iterations was Lord Humongous. So anyway, so that's it. I just wanted to make it clear to let people know that whatever, because we had some people who didn't like what we had to say, but you know what? Again, go fuck yourself. I don't care. So
yeah, we're all very sorry your butt hurt.
Yeah, we're sorry. So anyway, moving on. My rant over. So speaking of Mad Max, a little in the news information. I did recently read that the Mad Max reboot has now been pushed out to 2015. It's not even, like they're like in I think they've already done the filming. They've refilmed some stuff and they're editing, but they're pushing out like over a whole year and a half from now, like May of 2015, which is going to be competing against some big other blockbusters like Avengers 2 and some shit like that. I don't know why they pushed it out so far, especially since the Mad Max video game is supposed to come out in March or April, which is supposed to be a tie-in to the franchise. So
and it's not being pushed out.
That's not being pushed out. So I don't know what's going on with
that. Not great. I should also point out, let's see, also in the news, speaking of things that dropped in the video game world, the new downloadable content just turned up for State of Decay.
I saw that.
State of Decay Breakdown. And I'm not sure how to describe it except to say that it's the exact same map as the original game. It's the exact same mechanics of survival, but there's no storyline. There's no escape from the valley. All you do is it's the same sort of thing. You just do the missions, gather people to you, build your survivalist compound, manage your resources, strip the area of supplies, and when you're out of supplies, you move your compound, and as you keep growing and moving, the game keeps upping the zombie threat. And it's just a matter of how long till you run out of food or how long till the zombies get you. It's like survival option on some of those old first-person shooters. So there's no new storyline. There's no new map. On the plus side, it's like a $7 purchase. So and there's some new gear and some new stuff in it and some new art for the game. But it's not a spectacular new opening of the game. But if you enjoyed State of Decay before, you'll probably enjoy more opportunity to kill zombies and live with your regrets.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't know much about that. I did see recently that there's possibly coming to TV a 10-part miniseries adaptation of Frank Darabont's version of The Mist. Now, I don't know if that really falls under horror or apocalypse, because again, it kind of falls into like an alien, monster apocalypse. And
at least in Frank Darabont's version, it was, as you described before, a mini apocalypse.
Yes.
It wasn't the full blown, we lose, civilization is overrun, now you're digging for scraps. It was just a disaster.
Well, we don't know. I mean, yeah, they're being picked up by the army coming through the mist, but we don't know what happened after. How widespread was it? How far did it get?
Yeah.
So that may be apocalyptic in a sense. So that's coming out, and I picked up, just to briefly talk about, it's not really news. I picked up off of Amazon the Star Lost. I think we've mentioned. I think we've mentioned that in the past. I know some people, some viewers have mentioned that the Star Lost. I had some credit on Amazon. I got it for under $10, and I did some binge watching and got through all 16 episodes of it. It's Generation Ship, so it's more of a Metamorphosis Alpha type setting, which is pre-Gamma World. Also all the different books, like every single time I forget the name of the frickin' the books, the books.
You mean Highlands, Orphans of the Sky?
Orphans of the Sky, and give me
Metamorphosis.
No, there's Orphans of the Sky. There's 3 frickin' books, and I always fucking forget. Let me take a look. Hold on.
All right. Well, while you're
give me 2 seconds. I'll
let me go ahead and throw some news out while you're looking.
Okay.
That is, a friend of mine sent me for my birthday 2 books by Hugh Howey, Wool and Shift, which apparently are 2 books in something called the Wool Trilogy or Saga, or the Silo Saga. I think there's a 3rd book called Dust, which I haven't gotten my hands on yet. But they are post-apocalyptic settings where everyone is living in a toxic, poisoned earth. You can't go outside. If you do, even the survival suits will be dissolved by the environment. You'll die out there. And everyone appears to be stuck in this silo with no real knowledge, this giant underground complex, with no real knowledge of whether or not there's any other silos out there or any other system overseeing these colonies of survivors. And I've started reading it, and I haven't gotten very far, but so far, what I was reading was fairly good. More updates as they come in, but that's the latest in post-apocalyptic reading. And Wool and let's see, I want to say Wool came out this year. I think so. So these are very recent sojourns into the post-apocalyptic genre.
Cool, very good.
So what do you got there, Mr. Wallace? Which other titles were you looking for?
All right, Orphans of the Sky by Heimlin, Captive Universe by Harry Harrison.
Yeah, Harry Harrison.
And Starship by Brian Aldiss.
Okay.
Those are the three Generation Ship ones that I myself have read. Again, very much like that. It's not a bad series. Again, 1970, what was it, 73, I believe, Canadian television. So bad blue screening. Production quality is not the greatest. But the
Blake 7, special effects on Blake 7 look better.
Yeah. And as much as everybody made fun of Doctor Who, it's like Doctor Who's better. Okay, they did not do a great job. To where the point was, it was originally conceived and written. The main script was written by our friend and your friend and mine, Boy and His Dog.
Oh yes, Harlan.
Harlan Ellison wrote that. And he was so displeased in how they messed with his script that he used his alias on the credits, because he always has that worked as his contract to show his disdain for something he doesn't like. But so
rather than slag it, since he can't slag the finished product in public, he instead puts his I guess nom de guerre as opposed to nom de plume on it too, or his nom de, it would be his nom de merde. That's what it would be, his name for shit.
Yeah.
When he thinks something is shit.
Exactly. And one of their scientific typical advisors on the show was famous science fiction author Ben Bova.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know where these people came into play, because it was, like I said, it's not a bad show. If you could pick it up cheap or rent it or something, it's worth a watch if you like the whole Generation Ship thing. One of the best Generation Ship movies I've seen was in the last 5 years was Pandora. Was a really good movie. But this show's not bad. It's got some good concepts. So not a bad show if you get your hands on it. So anyway. So that's all I really got. Yet a couple things. So let's get into the meat of things. Let's start talking about everybody's favorite post-apocalyptic game, Fallout.
Certainly, the numbers bear that out. Certainly, the 300 to 400 hours of game time I put in it certainly is a testimony to whether or not I thought it sucked.
Yeah, Fallout 3. How many hours did I say I put into? I don't even remember.
It was something like 180 hours, dude. It was.
I think it was more than that.
You think you broke 2? Do you think you broke 3?
Oh, I think I almost got 3. All
right, I wouldn't be surprised.
But you played it more than I did. I'm an achievement whore. So once I played all three alignments and I got all my achievements, I was like, okay, I can't play this anymore after 200 and 300 hours.
But you were the guy, but you were the guy who'd go back to when you were like 9th level and then just be evil to 10th level so you could get you've gotten to 10th level as evil. Well, I would actually go back and start a whole new character.
Well,
in order to do every evil thing in the game,
Well, I did that on neutral. I played it, but then I said, what the fuck am I doing? And went back to my
great time. That's what you're doing. You're having a great time killing mutants in the wasteland. That is what you're doing. Clearly.
So folks, we're talking about Fallout 3. That was my first. I've seen the game before. There was Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Fallout Tactics. I never played any of those games because they were PC games. I was never, and I still am not a PC gamer. I was always a console gamer, so I didn't get first exposed to Fallout until Fallout 3. So I didn't see that. I didn't play Wasteland, which was, apparently the predecessor to that, which influenced a lot of Fallout. Now Scott's is playing Wasteland right now.
I haven't picked it up yet. It's like a $6 purchase, and you can play the old original 1988 version of it on my Apple operating system 10.68. So they've adapted it as part of the rollout for the Wasteland 2, because the guys who designed Wasteland lost the intellectual property rights to it, but wanted to do more post-apocalypse, and they went on, as part of the studios for Interplay to make Fallout 1 and 2. Later, of course, Interplay sold the rights to Bethesda after, mucking around with having the game, I guess it was Fallout 3, codenamed Van Buren, lost in development hell for about, 8 years, something like that. And there are two other games. There's Fallout Tactics, which never came out for Mac, but sometime in around, I don't know, maybe 2000, something like that, Fallout 1 and 2 were available for a Macintosh, and so that was my exposure. And I still have them on my machine, and they still run just fine. But I never got around to Tactics. I think I might have rented Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, which was this incredibly shitty, poorly produced first-person shooter that came out for the Xbox. It was absolutely awful. It was perhaps the...
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
It is the nadir of the franchise. And certainly there's a lot of noise about canon in the world of Fallout because, again, there's... what are we doing now? I guess technically there have been 6 games since '97, and which ones are canon and which ones aren't. Which ones, I don't know why that's. I mean, I understand why some of that's important to people who love a well-developed world, but I can pretty much guarantee that anything that was in Fallout Brotherhood of Steel was just a bad dream, like Dallas, where you just woke up at the end and Bobby Ewing or whoever was back alive, and it never happened. It was universally written off.
Or like Bob Newhart.
Yeah. On the other hand, Fallout Tactics, they've hinted a couple of times very obliquely to things in Fallout Tactics, and certainly Fallout 3, in my humble opinion, was an amalgam of elements from
all those
Fallout 1, 2, and 3, Fallout 2, and Fallout Tactics. Elements of that were all used to create Fallout 3, and a lot of people bitched and moaned that somehow Fallout 3 was not an advance of the story. It was almost like a reboot. I wouldn't call it that, but I certainly would think that it was a way to completely bring people into the franchise who had no previous contact.
Oh yeah,
with the franchise.
I was one of those people. I never played. I heard of the game. I knew a little bit about it. I think I might have tried it once on a PC, but I didn't really like it that much. But I liked.
I know. I tried selling you on it for years.
You did.
Because I thought the retro future apocalypse was incredibly Gamma World.
Oh yes, it is very Gamma World. But it is. I tried playing it. I just couldn't get into it. The mechanics of it. But then Fallout 3 came out. It was a first-person shooter. That's the type of games I'm accustomed to on the console. And they used the Elder Scrolls, the newer Elder Scrolls. I think 4 it was. I think it was 4 or 5. I can't remember which one it was.
It was Bethesda, yeah.
Yes, they used that game engine, and it worked great. The game itself was such an expansive universe that you played in. It seemed like it was limitless. I mean, you could wander anywhere, but you had restrictions. But it seems like you could go anywhere. The runescapes everywhere, all the little subplots of the game. Like, you didn't just have to follow the main path. There were so many little tiny stories, just one little things here and there, little hidden things to find. So much work and effort went into creating that universe, that Fallout 3 universe. It was fantastic because there were so many little tiny hidden things that, like, oh wait, what's that? Oh wait, what's this? Randomly finding shit, references. I mean, a lot of work went into that game. I mean, probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of development for that game. And I think I'd seen things were stating where developers, like the main developer, I think I remember him saying once, he's like, I don't even know everything in this game.
Yeah, when they asked him if he knew everything in the game, he says, no, that's what I have a staff for.
Yeah.
Because people were assigned various areas regions to develop on their own. Teams work to create, sections of the game completely independently of each other, which I thought was smart, so that there wasn't a lot of they didn't repeat themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There was so many cool little things in that game, and some of the things I loved. Like I loved how, spoiler alert. The game's
All
been
right,
out for.
let's go ahead and say spoiler alert. If you haven't played this 5-year-old game or its 3-year-old sequel, and you're going to be angry because we told you something that's going to happen, please take a moment to fuck yourself and stop watching, because holy shit. Second of all, as much as we can sit here and talk about like the design history of these games and the various people involved, I don't want to do that because there are a couple of there's so much out there, and the two
Fallout Wiki, the Fallout Wiki.
There's the Vault, which is a pretty good wiki. It's my go-to. My go-to wiki is Nukipedia. So if you take a look at Nukipedia and the Vault, those two wikis are gigantic and incredibly exhaustive, and there's all kinds of information you can get about the origin of the games, the hundreds of in-jokes from everything from Godzilla meets Bambi to Monty Python that turn up throughout these games. You can all do that. I think what we're going to do today is mostly talk about our experience of the game. How we experienced those games.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like I said, the things that we loved. Like one of the things that I loved was when you got to the satellite array. When you went through that adventure, got to the equipment, and you were able to get there and find some launch codes in connection to an orbiting nuke station, and you were able to just launch the nukes. And if you ran outside, you could see them coming down from the sky. It's like that. Not that the landscape wasn't already devastated by nukes. It was like 150 years ago. Here comes some more, just randomly falling out of the sky because you pressed the button.
I don't know if it's an actual genuine in-game video. I can't remember, but there's an escort mission. There's a particular escort mission in Fallout 3 where you have to escort.
The question is, was she hot?
No, it was that kid you take from Little Lamplight, that colony of children who live in the old caverns, and the kid's name is Sticky, which is bad to start with, and he's got the cone-shaped party hat, and you have to escort him across the wasteland to Big Town, where they dump all the people who've reached the age of 16 or whatever get kicked out of Little Lamplight. And the whole way he just rambles on. He just won't stop talking.
Yeah.
The most inane, annoying things. It just goes on and on. I watched somebody make a video where they actually took him out into the wasteland, took him over to where they knew the nuke strike was going to fall from the satellite.
He told him to stand there.
He told him to stay here, and then went inside the thing, shot all the raiders, or whatever, fired the missiles, and nuked Sticky, which that was incredibly satisfying. But again, holy crap, it was a game where you could do that, where you could take two completely separate storylines.
Oh yeah, it was so
and cross them over.
Oh, it's a fantastic. All the little things, like. They reference the original games. Isn't there the one like there's some mutant who turns into a tree or something?
Oh God, Harold.
Harold?
Yeah, poor fucking Harold, who turns up in Fallout 3, and you'd seen him in Fallout 1 and 2. And when you see his ultimate fate, it's one of the scenarios in the game which I really like. Had these sort of no-win scenarios, no matter what your decision is, it sucks. You find Harold, and he's the tree or the little flower that was growing out of his head in Fallout 2 has turned into a tree and immobilized him, and he's horribly stuck in this tree, rooted to the ground. And his basic message when you meet him is, "Kill me." And your options are, well, you can either kill him, and he will stop growing, and therefore plant life will not return to the wasteland. Or you can leave him there to suffer, and it will, the lush green verdant world will come back. So So if you can handle one guy being tortured forever, you get to have trees.
Well, that's an easy decision.
Yeah, you're okay with torturing Harold, clearly.
Maybe, but just the game itself, the look, the feel, it's got that retro 50s view of the future, and then they've kind of really nailed that pretty good, So, and again, it has that
the cars all have fins, that there's the 50s style diners. The interior of the houses have all the sort of 50s clothing.
Mr. Handy Robot, it's got all that cool shit. Again, very Gamworld-esque with that whole retro future thing, ray guns and things like that, which they eventually have. Guys in power armor. Again very Gamworld. That's again a lot of what's sold me on that. It was the look, the feel.
Let us not forget the Rad Scorpions. Scorpion who turned up in Fallout 1 and 2 and have been all through the series, but those exist because of the stop-motion scorpions in Damnation Alley.
Oh, well.
You would not have Rad Scorpions if it wasn't for, was it Jan Michael Vincent jumping his motorcycle over them in Damnation Alley.
With his mannequin on the back and his buddy thought, what'd you leave that woman there for? It was a mannequin, sir. So...
That didn't stop him from talking to it and kissing it, which is even more disturbing.
Well, when you're a bunch of guys at a missile silo after...
Yeah, really the mannequin is your best option.
Yeah, yes. There's no dropping the soap in the shower. But yeah.
I would also like to point out that, did you notice that the missile base in Damnation Alley was destroyed because of masturbation and pot?
Was it? I don't remember that.
The guy's smoking pot and reading dirty magazines, and he drops the ash on the magazines, which catches fire and blows the base up. So
that's right.
Apparently, Playboy and the Wacky Tobacco will be the end of you.
Destroy us all.
All right, but back to Fallout.
So again, very expansive. Again, I said I loved how.
Let me ask you a question. What was that first feeling when you step out on the scenic overlook, when you get out of the vault, when you escape from the vault at the beginning, and your first step out, suddenly there's no roof on you, and you step out of that world. What was your first thought about that when you saw that?
It's full of stars. But it was just like, wow. I mean, because you could just see to the horizon. It was like...
I kind of presumed that the horizon was fake. That there's going to be a fucking wall, an invisible wall in the game.
Well, there is eventually, but...
But it's not there. When you're first looking out, you literally can go as far as you can see.
You keep going. You're like the Energizer Bunny. You just keep going and going and going. It was, again, it's so big, it's so detailed, it's so rich. There's just so much going on in that game, and this is just the base game.
Yeah, forget the DLC.
Yeah, how many expansions was it? 5?
It's 5. It was actually Anchorage, I guess, was first.
Anchorage,
which was what's it called? Is it Operation Anchorage?
Anchorage. You get to the virtual reality machine.
Yeah. Then I think the next one is the Pit.
The Pit.
And I think the third one is Broken Steel. But really, Broken Steel is the one that sort of the one that made sure that the game did not have a permanent ending.
Yes.
In Fallout 1, you go out, the original quest in Fallout 1, for, I don't know, maybe somebody doesn't know, was your vault is failing.
The water system, right?
The water chip has failed, and you now need to go out into the world and find a replacement water chip. And while out there, you discover the Master and his mutant army are also going to be a threat, and you have to deal with them, because even if you get the water chip fixed, the mutants will come and take over your vault. And at the end of it, the vault's overseer says, well, thanks for saving us all, but you've been changed by the out of doors, and we can't let you back in to contaminate the population with your crazy ideas about outside. So they shut you out of the vault, and that's the end of the game. Fallout 2, even after you do the missions in Fallout 2, and the main deal in Fallout 2 is about beating the Enclave, destroying the Enclave's main base. And after you finish that, you could keep playing the game. You could go back and get all the side missions that you missed, or just wander around waiting for random encounters to blow things up. The best random encounter in Fallout 2 was where you run into the Gateway to Tomorrow from the Star Trek episode. You know, the one where, you know, DeForest Kelley jumps through, goes to the 1930s, and they have to, you know, God, who's the actress they had to kill?
Was it what's her name?
Yeah. From Dynasty or the English actress. You know, they have to kill her so that she doesn't, you know, have a pacifist movement at the wrong time in history and let the Nazis win World War II. Well, you actually run into the Gateway again, and it's a random encounter in Fallout. And if you go through it, it dumps you into the past in your vault from Fallout 1. And if you wander around and there's like a console that you can interact with, as soon as you touch it, it says, "Oh, you broke the water chip."
Oh, nice.
And you scurry back and, you know, eventually find your way, back to the present. But then you therefore become your own grandfather paradox, because you're playing someone who's a descendant of the character in the first film or first game. So yeah, that was the kind of in-joke humor that you would get all the time in those. But Fallout 2 let you keep playing the game.
So basically, you're Philip Fry, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And the problem in Fallout 3, there was a definitive end of the game.
Until Broken Steel came out, where they said, okay, you know what? You can complete the game, but you can keep going if you want.
Yeah. And I really that was the boy was that the right thing to do.
Oh, because there was so much, scuttlebutt. People were so angry, like, the game's over, I want to go back and do shit, so what?
Your final achievement is to die heroically. And I'm like, no, nobody likes that.
No, that's not good.
I understand when the lone wanderer, the vault dweller, sort of walks off into the sunset at the end of Fallout 1. That's okay. Sunset, fine. But drop dead, that's your reward, is to drop dead. That sucked. And the game would end. There were options not to drop dead, but even those options brought the game to a close.
Still brought the game to an end. Exactly.
So Broken Steel, allowed you to keep playing the game ad infinitum, which was the right thing to do.
Exactly, because a lot of people didn't like that, and it made a lot of people happy. So Broken Steel came out. Then after Broken Steel was Point Lookout.
Yeah, and finally Mothership Zeta.
Mothership Zeta. Which, by the time Mothership Zeta came out, and you're like 50th level, and you're getting alien ray guns, and all this crazy-ass shit, you just got so powerful to where it's almost like, you know what? You almost got to start over to have a good time. Because otherwise, I know there's a point where I'm just walking around the wasteland like, boop, 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 super mutant behemoths, whatever, boop, 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 just dropping everything, I
don't know about you, sir, but the super mutant overlord never got easy. That never got easy. I tell you what was a challenge, was keeping your damn companions alive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when
their intelligence wasn't that great. They're still, what? Where do you want me to go?
Yeah, you're sneaking, and if they see a threat, they just jump up and run right at it, and dog meat would routinely get mushed by albino rad scorpions or something, I just remember when I loaded Broken Steel for the first time, and they upgraded the critters in the wasteland, and I just remember the first time I started realizing, oh wait, there's extra horrible shit in the game. Like, I'm sneaking around with Sharon. Out of nowhere, this scorpion that's coming at us. It's dark, so I don't really realize it's albino, and it kills him in one attack. It just goes boom, and his body just sort of pinwheels.
Oh yeah, the ragdoll effects in that game were classic at times. And
I'm like, holy crap, and. Okay, we're going to put that save back. We're going to go back a little bit because there's, and leave him somewhere safe because suddenly, the wasteland outclassed your companions.
Now it's gotten dangerous.
Yeah. If you wanted a real tough thing would be to try and keep companions alive, or even NPCs, because there were certain locations where bits of the wasteland would spawn too close. So the one I always hear about was Big Town. With the kids in it, and Canterbury Commons. There was something I read on some of the wikis saying that death claws or giant rad scorpions will spawn real close. And one of the problems with Big Town is even they got a moat around it. The AI for the NPCs, they'll run across their bridge out, beyond where they're protected and get into the shit with something, that they can't handle, and they'll all get killed. So, one of the things I did in the game after a while, was go around and sneak up on people who were sleeping in communities that I liked and upgrade their weapons and equipment. I'd go and get all these, get the armor all repaired and the weapons all up to max and load them up with a bunch of energy cells. Because by this point in the game, you'd
reverse pickpocket the good shit to them.
Yeah, and by this point you're looking at hundreds of thousands of bottle caps in your inventory. Well, what else are you going to spend them on? And you just go and suddenly everybody in Big Town has combat armor and flamethrowers and missile launchers, and you just get them all tooled up so that they can protect themselves.
So what, they can at least last 30 seconds.
Yeah, if you ended up like, I don't know, often those spawning problems would happen when you fast traveled to an area.
Yeah.
And so I would routinely fast travel near an area and then walk up, because Megaton was the worst for that. If you fast traveled to Megaton, on your way out, there would be a chance to spawn some critter out front, and it would eventually, chew up Deputy Weld or that sniper who's over the doorway, that would always. But all right, granted, in the games where I nuked Megaton, I didn't care, but in the games where I was, trying, that was my house, that was my hometown.
Well, that was very conscientious of you to do.
Thank you.
But
Thank you. I maintained a lot of uncomfortably close relationships to things that didn't exist in that game. Like things that you wanted to preserve, even though it's just, I understand how people play games and they just kill everybody they meet. It's like, oh, it's a really nice hat. I hope you're not essential to the storyline. But I routinely didn't want to blow places up because, or massacre everybody I met. But, yeah, going back to sort of experiences. Go ahead.
But also now we're talking about just how we played on the console. I played on the Xbox, you played on the Xbox. Yeah. There was also, of course, computer versions of this, and they released the, what was it?
The GEC.
The GEC. So where people were able to make their, we can't even get into the amount of mods that are out there for the PC versions. How many people created so much of their own content?
Oh, built their own, sort of personalized super bases and their own personalized vaults, or built their own adventures with dialogue trees and things like that. They've modded in skins from other games to build different new weapons or new monsters.
It wasn't just like some people like, oh, I'm gonna put some more of this. There's some people doing some full-on game development basically there. These people were like spending some serious hours making all this shit.
There's a lot of good stuff on YouTube if you want to go up and check people's video games or videos of games where they play some of these mods. There's a guy named Al Chestbreach who does these videos. He does an enormous number of walkthroughs and playthroughs of some of the mods, and some of them are really shockingly good. They're kind of jaw-droppingly good.
Kind of like, it's kind of what you wonder is like, do these people do this shit professionally anyway?
Yeah, that they might have, that might be their day job somewhere else. One of the most amazing was people have gone back in and they have farmed information about the Van Buren Fallout 3, Project Van Buren, which was never developed. Now, elements of Van Buren do go on to be in Fallout New Vegas. Caesar's Legion, the Hoover Dam, things like that turn up in New Vegas. There's a lot of stuff that does. But there are also ideas that were dropped and never developed. One of them being something called the Boulder Dome, which was supposed to be like this sealed environment filled with scientists left over from before the war that you can investigate. And somebody built an entire Boulder Dome mod where you can, they set up they set up a truck or something where you can interact with it in the game and travel, much like you traveled on the Duchess Gambit to Point Lookout or on the rail car to the pit in Pittsburgh. You could just click on it and then poof, you're transported to another completely new environment for Fallout.
And this again, folks, is all on the PC, so that's not what you don't get that kind of experience on the console. Yeah. So again, it all depends on what level of interaction you want to have with it. But again, I mean, I played again. I'm not a PC.
And to say that the GEC is actually the level editor.
The level editor, yeah.
Yeah, the GEC is what they used at Bethesda and Black Isle and whoever to actually lay out their game and create their game. That was the tool that they used, and they made it publicly available so people could muck around with it, and it created a very vibrant community.
Yeah, which is pretty cool that they did do that. So, and unfortunately, it's nigh impossible to do that kind of stuff for the console. So we're kind of stuck with whatever they give us for DLC. But again, it's a great. I mean, the game was great. I mean, I loved mutants were cool. Robots. I love the robots interacting.
Yeah, the robots are very Gamma World. Where you show up at
very Gamma World. Now, when it came to mutants, you didn't see a lot of Gamma World-ish mutants. Okay, you had your ghouls, you had your super mutants, but that was about it. You didn't really have mutants in the sense of Gamma World. Just to clarify, that weren't like, okay, I got there wasn't a lot of psychic powers or mutant abilities. It was just like super mutants, just a big brute. And the ghouls are kind of like almost undead creatures. Basically giantism seemed to be the biggest mutation.
Giant flies, giant roaches, giant mantises, giant scorpions. Yeah.
Giant, bear-like creatures. So again, variations of it, but nothing that's really like mutants, like people with 4 arms and laser eyes.
Until the centaurs. Centaurs. Now I think the Centaurs are in. The Centaurs are in Fallout 3.
Yeah.
The Centaurs is maybe the most mutant-y thing besides the ghouls, but even the ghouls are just sort of anthropomorphic, and that's something worth mentioning. Is that one of the things that really got me for the pit was the new animations for the Trog.
Oh yeah,
it was a completely new animation in the game where things didn't just walk around like a human,
Yeah, they weren't a reskin of the framework of a regular character. It was totally different.
Yeah. Now the ghouls do have their own personalized animations. That squatting thing that they do while they're at rest, and they have certain animations where they're gnawing on bones and stuff like that. But and their attacks. So the feral ghouls, had their own animation that made them more interesting than a lot of creatures.
Yeah.
But the Trogs, the first time we had that horrible 4-legged Morlock from H.G. Wells, Time Machine kind of crawling around and being savage, and they got me. They really got my attention the first game.
Oh, when I first went out into the area where the Trogs were, go look for this. I was like, I almost pooped my pants when I saw those things coming at me, because you didn't have the weapons. Like you had to get the chain, the
axe.
The axe thing. Oh my God, yeah, it was.
Well, you had been telling me that you never put any points into sneak. You never snuck anywhere.
Nope.
And so I
was not a sneaker at all.
So when you were playing the pit, you were just ringing the dinner bell everywhere you went.
Yep. Brute force. I brute forced my way through the entire game. Every character, I'm like, I just put so much into it. It's like, you know what? If I can't beat it down, then, no sneak, no stealth. There was no being quiet. No, it was all about, okay, you know what? I was playing the tank. Yeah, I guess to make a Warcraft reference or a computer gaming. I was just like, I'm gonna be big and bad, and I'm gonna pound through your ass. That was my philosophy on all my characters.
And
it worked.
Yeah, you died. Everybody dies. Everybody dies.
Everybody dies.
But no, I was just the opposite. I'm the guy who
You're a
recently.
pussy.
I was the pussy that had to go. And once I realized that playing through Operation Anchorage lets you end up with the Chinese stealth armor where you're invisible, that that's the first thing I did on my next playthrough. Is as soon as I had level 8, straight to the Brotherhood Outcasts, get into the virtual reality machine, go to Anchorage, unlock the vault, get me that Chinese stealth armor, because at that point I could wander around any environment filled with raiders or mutants and just sort of spy on them and their animations and the dialogue that was going on, because it's a game where a lot of times, you'll end up, you can end up seeing things where, like, two different groups of animations will just go after each other.
Oh,
the game doesn't care. The game doesn't care if you're there. Some raiders will fight some super mutants, and you can just be out there with your opera glasses, watching it go down, so you can police up their ammo and gear.
Yeah. I get that was brilliant the way they designed the games, where it doesn't need. You're right. It didn't need to have you to interact or be involved. So if you were in the area and people are running around, the NPCs would interact with each other. People would attack each other. Monsters would fight each other. It's like, that was cool. Because it wasn't just like, oh, we're just going to stand here and wait for the player character to come around so we could do something. No, they would be wandering around, and if a random rat scorpion would come by, it would say, you know what, you're dinner. It would start attacking the raiders, and the raiders would be fighting them. That was brilliant. With the AI was fairly
for 2008, it was great.
When it came to that. Oh yeah, I mean, they did a good job with that.
So I was going to say that I could go on and on about the pit, because it was my favorite DLC, because it had
the pit was very exceptional. It was very good. Different environment. It wasn't just a rad blasted wasteland. You were actually in the ruins of a city, which you didn't see. You saw the expansive ruins around you, a little bit in downtown DC, but you were in a ruined city, which you didn't really get to do in the rest of the wasteland.
And it was multi-level. Where it was all those broken out apartments on the cliff dwellings with all the bridges and scaffolding that went between it. That was a really genuinely new environment. The whole look of it, that poisoned look from the pollution and the radiation, rather than just straight out nuclear devastation, really worked. And then it was just such a great bad decision, where you either side with the warlord, who has genuinely decent aspirations, but is being a warlord, or you can side with the rebels, who are genuinely oppressed, but their leader is a douchebag who doesn't give a shit about the people he's looking out for, or he says he's leading. I mean, they're just tools for him to become the new warlord.
Yeah, well, that was also a big part of the game too. Was you had to make a lot of decisions for right or for wrong. There was a lot of moral or more ethical decisions you had to make. It's like, well, this guy's he's really putting the thumb on people, but he's really trying to help. But yeah, like you said, this guy is a douche and he's using these people. Who do you pull the trigger when it's next to their head? You have to make these decisions, and they're not, and the decisions weren't always easy in that game.
Yeah, and my favorite being Tenpenny Tower.
Oh yeah, totally.
Tenpenny Tower, when you get in and you know that Mr. Tenpenny, who runs the place, is a douchebag, and his second in command, Mr. Burns, or whatever his name was, it Burns?
I don't remember.
Is a scumbag, because the first time you meet them, they want you to help blow up the town of Megaton. But when you get in there, there's all these other people in the building. A lot of them are douchebags. And there's a group of ghouls who want to get into the building and because they can afford to buy their way in, but there's all this prejudice. And you think, oh, I know, let's just negotiate. Well, everyone will talk about, if you're playing a good character.
Yeah.
Like, well, we're gonna negotiate, and they've got the money to get in, and they could be valuable contributors to Tenpenny Tower, and maybe the snobs will be less snobby if the ghouls are allowed in. And you work this deal, and everyone's reasonable, and you totally reasonable it out, and you let the ghouls in. And they murder everybody.
Yeah, they
murder.
They go to town
and kill every single person you met, including the one or two who were not annoying. They've all been massacred, and their bodies are stacked up down in the basement, and you find them all dismembered down there. And it's like, but we were being reasonable. It's like, fuck them, we're in charge now. And I'm like, Yeah, that was a real slap in the face when you realize, oh wait, negotiating and trying to get people to cooperate may not be the best answer.
Nope.
There's some folks who just have to be put down.
And that was predominant through the entire game. Again, making decisions, making tough decisions, and then you make these decisions that you think are okay. I made a good choice. No, no, done. But besides Fallout 3, let's maybe jump into.
Well, I do want to say something about the DLCs. I mean, because listen, sir, we could do two shows on this, and I don't mind. At least I could, because I'm a huge fan. But I do want to say something else about the DLCs. Operation Anchorage wasn't great, but it was sort of interesting.
It was the first one. It was nice that they did something different. Probably the most poorly executed. It wasn't that great.
It was very. I mean, granted, it was a complete railroad, but the idea that you're going inside a VR virtual reality simulator, you could accept the fact that it was a game. You were actually in a game, and it wasn't that great. On the plus side, you get the awesome Chinese stealth armor. The rewards for going through it were really good. You got great weapons out of it.
Oh yeah. Oh no. The benefits were nice.
The pit was definitely was the most original new environment.
The pit was really good. That's probably
Broken Steel opened the whole thing up.
Well, Broken Steel was good because it opened up the game to make it, infinite play. But again, it wasn't necessarily the best DLC. It was the best part about it was that it gave the open ending, like you could play past the ending. But what they added to it, I don't think it really added a whole lot. It didn't add a whole lot to the game, I don't think. Personally.
You got to see. I mean, you got to see poor old Liberty Prime buy it.
It was okay.
I've heard people say they burst into tears when Liberty Prime does that. Everyone retreat to minimum safe distance as the fucking missiles are coming down and destroying him. It's like, I die so that freedom may live, or whatever those great recorded propaganda things that would come out of Liberty Prime's mouth while it was blowing up everyone while thinking they were communists. That was kind of awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there were some good parts to it, but it's like, compared to some of the other ones,
the environment was not as different. It wasn't as different.
It didn't add a whole lot. I mean, they added the open ending, it added Liberty Prime, which is cool, but overall, now, Point Lookout.
Oh, that's another story. Before we get to that, let me just say Mothership Zeta was actually, to me, very weak because...
that's the fifth one. Let's go forward.
All right, well, let's go for Point Lookout. You go Point Lookout first.
Oh, I loved Point Lookout.
Yeah.
I love that environment. You took the ferry boat there, the swamp, and the swamp people. There was like some Lovecraftian elements in there too.
Oh yeah.
With the Necronomicon and the evil books and the backward swamp people. I mean, I loved. You could swim in the water. There was like a sunken submarine that you could swim down to and
get inside.
And get inside.
Yeah.
And get shit. There was a lot of... Well, of course, that introduced the new super ghouls that threw radioactive poop at you. But,
I don't know about that. I think those guys were at Broken Steel because I loaded up Broken Steel.
Where were they?
I remember I loaded up Broken Steel. I was wandering around the sewers in D.C., and I see a ghoul squatting somewhere. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to shoot him in the head with my little silenced pistol. Because I've been killing ghouls left and right with it, and I shot him, and I just made him mad, and then he just showed up and just beat the crap out of me, just leapt up and.
But they added a different ghoul to that one. There was a new.
There's a swamp ghoul. There was some sort of swamp ghouls, but it wasn't the Reaver.
Oh, it wasn't the Reaver. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, there was some kind of swamp ghoul that was pretty badass too. It was just like it was ridiculous.
Swamp lurks.
But overall, I really love that content. I think it was one of the better ones out there. They added some new weapons. I loved going in the water. All the little things you could get offshore. It was
all the creeping, bubbling, swampy, muck, and the only thing that was possibly missing was quicksand. Just they'd throw it in quicksand. You can wander into like a trap and just suddenly your character drops down into the muck. That would have been hilarious.
Oh yeah. So that was probably one of my favorites.
Because it was huge too. I mean,
it was big, very
The
big.
pit was what, a quarter or a fifth that size?
Yeah, but it was very well done though. It was a very good environment, and well, it was you were on an island, so you had a lot of room to run around in. But yeah, but Point Lookout again, I think it was one of the best, probably one of the best ones they came out with. And then Mothership Zeta. It was a neat concept. Oh, look, you're on a ship, and look, here are all these people from the past. The mothership's been capturing people and gathering shit on Earth, and it's been orbiting. It was kind of neat, but again, like you said, pretty weak.
Well, it was, I like that they sort of started down a 1950s, alien movie path.
Yeah.
And there were some amusing things like where you find the Mercury capsule, and there's all kinds of amusing artifacts to find inside the mothership. But because it was just hallways and rooms and hallways and rooms, yeah, you walk on the surface of the spaceship once.
It was a dungeon. It was a dungeon crawl.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a good answer. It wasn't the same as having a place. I mean, the pit and Point Lookout both provided places you could go back to and poke around even after you finished the main storyline.
Oh yeah. Well, you could go back there, I think, to the main deck, but that was about it. You really couldn't do a whole lot,
Yeah, you could go back to the commander, I think, and that was about it.
I mean, you found some neat shit. Like you found some, like I think in the garbage piles, you found like in a safe, you found some kind of prototype plasma gun. You found some pretty powerful shit in that one. It was basically, it was a little Monty Hall. Some of the shit you found in there.
Not to mention, one of my favorite things is they took some things. They took a couple of items that were from Operation Anchorage, I think. They were only available in the virtual reality simulator. Like I think General Constantine Chase's jacket with all his stars on the collar was something you could find on Mothership Zeta, but you couldn't take it with you out of the VR simulator, obviously. But you could find things like that, and there were a couple of other sort of odd little discovery you come up with, but the story wasn't anything like Point Lookout. I mean, for fuck's sake. Do you remember the point? At what point in Point Lookout did you realize you'd been lobotomized?
I don't remember.
Remember? There's this bit where they steal a piece of your brain.
Yep.
And you can't. And suddenly the only sign that something has changed is that you can't put your hat on. Your character can no longer wear a hat or a helmet. And if you go to third person outside point of view, there's this giant bald spot and this big scar. Like you look like Landon, the astronaut from Planet of the Apes. And it was just like, what the mother? Now I'm motivated. Whatever was going on in Point Lookout, somebody's gonna have to pay for fucking up my haircut. That's all.
I remember getting a little angry when
In fact, when you finally confront Tovar the ferryman, spoiler alert, the weapon I used to kill him was that special axe you find called the Dismemberer.
Oh yeah.
Which its special effect was that if you hit somebody with it and got a critical, they would fly apart into a million pieces. And I'm just like, die! Splashed him all over the engine room. Took my little brain in a jar and went home to Megaton and put the brain on a shelf in my apartment.
Yep. And you can look at it and look, I remember that. It's like, it was so disconcerting. It's like,
I'm sure multiple people had that experience of, well, I'll just put this here, right next to the.
There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do about it.
Right on the shelf next to the pre-war books I haven't, turned in yet, and the all the technical manuals that I've collected, and
my Krog the Barbarian, or
Krog, yeah, exactly. There was actually a point where I'd gotten up enough skill points because there was a point where you started maxing out your skills completely in Fallout, so everything's 100. Where I started just going, well, I'm just going to collect those skill books and put them on a shelf and decorate my apartment with them. They went next to the skill books and the, maybe a nice Brahmin skull right there.
Yeah,
That's another thing I got to point out about that game. It was kind of embarrassing how interested I got in decorating my damn apartment.
like it was a Barbie dream house or something.
Yeah, it suddenly became my post-apocalyptic Barbie dream house, where I'm like, let's see which motif will I use, and how am I going to fill it up with crap? And,
oh yeah, I got to the point where I was changing motifs, collecting trophies, and then it's like, okay, I'm spending too much time doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But time to go out and just try to fight and kill more things. But but that was Fallout 3, pretty expansive. We really don't got a whole. We're gonna have to be quick about Fallout New Vegas because we don't got a whole lot of time left. So
I say we come back for more Fallout New Vegas. And if anyone out there is watching this on Google, send him a text message saying episode 2 should be about New Vegas. But all right, let's say New Vegas. There was a guy who reviewed New Vegas who said that when they added hardcore mode, where ammo weighed something and you couldn't have infinite piles of ammo in the game anymore, where you really couldn't afford to bring along the golf caddy bag filled with rifles. And
what were they thinking? This is a video game. I don't want reality. Yeah.
And where your character had to sleep, where he starts losing stats and hit points, where he has to eat, where he loses stats and hit points, where the medicines don't heal him instantly, where the medicines don't take the radiation away instantly. The hardcore mode in Fallout New Vegas, I loved it. It was absolutely awesome for me. But I will admit that the only way you're going to make it any more immersive is if you take your games of Fallout, put them in a grinder, grind them up into powder, and fill a swimming pool with it, and then you could jump in, and then you would be immersed in Fallout New Vegas. It was a brilliant option for me.
Well, yeah, no, it makes it more because like with Fallout 3, it got to the point where, at least with me, I got so powerful that there was nothing I couldn't handle.
Yeah,
everything was a joke.
They definitely changed it so you didn't get skill points as fast per level, and you didn't get a perk every level.
Yeah,
you got them every other level.
Yeah, so they slowed it down so you would become these Ubermensch, which was good because it made it more challenging.
And with making ammo weigh something, you had
to make a decision.
Yeah.
Which gun am I bringing because I need to bring as much ammo as possible for this gun, not 5 guns. Yeah,
exactly.
And one of the things, Fallout Vegas was good. I never finished it, to be honest with you, because I started losing interest in it because I don't know. It was different, but it seemed to me to be it was the same thing to me. It wasn't different enough to really keep my interest as much as it did the first time around. They added some stuff to it which I thought it was a little unnecessary, like the whole crafting thing. That I didn't care for because crafting was more of a PC gamer thing with some of these other games where you do what was it? Did Warcraft do crafting? I think.
I don't know, but certainly Bethesda put that in some of their other games like Skyrim as well.
Skyrim, yeah, it's like the crafting thing. I'm like, you know what? I don't get to care about. Well, let me cobble this together to make this and all that. Oh, you want to get this? Well, you have to craft. I didn't like crafting. I know people who play PC games love crafting. I didn't care for that aspect of it. I really didn't use it.
Fallout New Vegas changed some of the skills around. I think.
Yes.
I want to say that. It was something like survival was the big skill that they added, so that your ability to craft things at the fire, cook fires and things, got to be kind of important.
Yeah.
And there was some crafted weapons you could make, and there was certainly the thing where you could unload your ammo. Let's say you're all weighed down with shotgun shells, and you want to convert them into a different type of ammo. I kind of like the part about policing up your brass, and you could make, although it never really felt like it became an issue.
Yeah.
I could do it, but it was never something where I'm going to have to because I do not have enough ammo to get through this problem.
Yeah. I would do the thing with the ammo just to like, well, I got so many of these 38 rounds, and I don't use that weapon. I would just break them down and do shit with them just to get rid of the shit,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't want to just dump it. So I said I used it a little bit, but again, I didn't. It was not something that I really liked that much about it. And like I said, the robots were different. They had robots, but those weird kind of
with the one wheel.
One-wheeled,
Well, all the other robots are still there. They still had the.
Yeah, they had those. I didn't care for those too much. Those robots seemed to be a little. I don't know. Again, for me, it's like,
a little cartoony.
They're a little too cartoony. I mean, and the thing is, they were trying to be more immersive. I mean, there was some cool shit. Again, there was some cool stuff about it, but there was some point, I don't remember where, but it just lost me. And I was
there are definitely things that I miss about the original game. I mean, first of all, I missed all those weapons you made out of junk. That was one of my favorite things in Fallout 3 was the steam-powered railroad spike gun, which wasn't the best gun in the game, but the very fact that it would knock arms, legs, and heads off of bad guys and stick them into the wall.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna have to kill some guys with this because there's gonna have to be some heads stuck to walls. I mean,
you know what it was about Fallout Vegas that I think what kind of lost me was there was too much to do. I felt there was too many options that you couldn't. And as ADD as I am, and have to go, and I'm very thorough about doing things, I had a sensory overload, especially with not even the DLC. There was too much to do. Then start adding the DLC. I was like, I can't do this because I will never be able to get through everything. I overload and I kind of lost interest.
That's
what
the wiki's for. And let me assure you, I use the Fallout wikis as checklists. Have I done everything? Have I done every quest? And oh my God, have I done the unmarked quests? Because both games have things you can accomplish that are not marked, that are not going to appear in your Pip-Boy. So you can knock them off, and it'll tell you how far along in the quest you are. There are other things I gotta know. I see where you're coming from, but that didn't bother me so much. Fallout New Vegas. I liked the weapons in the earlier game a little bit better, like the Chinese assault rifle. And some of the weapons in the new game were sort of more like weapons. There was a lot of weapons that were like modern firearms as opposed to fantasy projections of firearms. Although
there was actually like assault rifles.
That looked like various M4 carbine knockoffs of various varieties. I kind of preferred the science fiction-y looking rifles, the ones where it's kind of an AK, but it's clearly some fantasy version of an AK. They're not calling it an AK. So that was, that's personal taste. But on the plus side, the Gunrunner's Arsenal DLC added all these weapons that had appeared in Fallout 1 and 2 to New Vegas. And so there's this huge list of weapons that I'm like, oh, wait, I remember that. I shot guys all the time with the Bozar sniper rifle in Fallout 2, and suddenly you got to play it again. The other thing that I would say about Fallout New Vegas is I love the immersive thing where you had to sleep, and you'd be sitting there drinking your Nuka-Cola because it would knock off you didn't have to sleep as much. It would knock back your sleep quotient, so you didn't start losing hit points. I really liked that, and I really liked they brought back the companion wheel, where you had a lot of options on how to interact with your companions.
Yeah, they definitely expanded the Fallout universe in this, gave you a lot more choices, a lot more control about what was going on, which is good.
And finally, I like the idea that they divorced the factions you can back from karma.
Yes.
That you could be a good character and still support
Caesar's Legion.
Back Caesar's Legion. You could be an evil character and back the NCR. The one thing I always was regretted in Fallout 3 was your only option is to go with your only option besides support the Brotherhood of Steel and your father's vision and make the water purifier work, was to back President Eden's genocidal plan to poison the wasteland. And you couldn't really you couldn't back the Enclave. You could only back President Eden, because there's that great moment in the game where the Enclave actually breaks with President Eden, where, you know, his plan is to poison all the ones who are not pure humans, and the rest of the Enclave is like, no, we need this water purifier so people will like us and join us, and then our armies will get bigger, you know, and we'll conquer the wasteland, you know. How about that for a bland boss? And the crazy AI has different ideas. And I was sort of sorry you could never do that option in the game. Certainly that doesn't, but that option is presented in New Vegas. You can support two of the nastiest douchebags in the Mojave Wasteland, Mr. House and Caesar. Or, you know, if you want to be even more evil, you can murder Caesar and let his horrifying assistant Lanius take over and make Caesar's Legion even worse. But you can support that faction, any faction in the game, which that was very refreshing.
No, like I said, it's definitely good that they had more. You had more choice and more options in that game. When you were speaking about weapons, I just remember the sniper rifle. I don't remember, it must have been in 3 or 2. Like, I remember using a sniper rifle a lot. I remember like finding this one uber rare sniper
rifle. The Victory rifle.
Yeah.
The Victory rifle. It's in that shack on the top.
Way up on the cliff top there.
With the two roaches, Fluffy and Scratchy, who are like in the cage. And once you get that rifle,
I was a force to be reckoned with. I would be dropping like death claws like nobody's business. Like, I'd see them at a distance, I'd just be like, pop, 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 just dropping them.
That rifle, and then the rifle had an extra thing in it. I went back and played a little Fallout, just recently, and I was playing through Operation Anchorage, and to get to the outcast base, you have to go through these super mutants, and I was 20th level. So I ran into a super mutant overlord, which kicks in at that level, and thank God I had that sniper rifle, because the one thing that thing does, it had a knockdown in the game. So you'd hit him, and he'd fall over and stop shooting you for a little while. And while he's laying there, you'd pour on the fire until he got up again and try and knock him down again. Otherwise, they just hose you down with those horrifying Gatling lasers and just chew up your armor and chew up your health. But yeah, the Victory rifle was, I think everybody got a hold of the Victory rifle, and just, that became their favorite thing.
Exactly.
Not the least of which, because it was the sniper rifles were the only way to see a long distance.
Yeah.
There was those Magnums. They had the Lord Humongous 44 with the scope on it. And I gotta tell you, that's one of the things I loved about New Vegas. Was hold on just a second. I have got a sound playing in the background. It sounded like somebody was a commercial. Oh, I'm sorry, one of my web pages I had open instead of playing a commercial. But I was going to say that one of the things I loved about New Vegas is there were a lot of scoped weapons, and they even had binoculars. So you could go out and scope the environment.
Binoculars are great. Because in Fallout 3, no binoculars, sniper rifle is the only way to see distance. But at least in Fallout Vegas, they thought, oh, hey, let's put binoculars in there. Because sometimes you don't want to have to run up on the shit that's going on down there because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I want to see first, best I can.
So I really enjoyed the ways that the mechanics changed in the game. Although, having gone back and picked up Fallout 3 just to play through Anchorage and the Pit, and my intention was actually to play through Point Lookout again. The one thing I noticed I didn't realize how different it was compared to the two games, the environments is, holy crap, all the time you spent underground in the Capital Wasteland.
Oh, yeah. Subways.
Those subway tunnels
were expansive.
Yeah. And it was a huge part of the game. It was a huge part of the game, all those dark, oppressive, dusty, collapsing tunnels filled with, ghouls. There's some underground. There's some underground in New Vegas, some sewer stuff under the city, but
it's mostly above ground.
There's nothing like that environment. The New Vegas environment isn't as claustrophobic.
Yeah, you want to bask in the Vegas sun. Get yourself a nice tan. So
develop some melanoma.
exactly. Well, I'm sure you'll get cancer somehow with all the radiation.
Yes.
But so anyway,
you want to go into the DLCs or what?
The what?
You want to say anything about the DLCs for Vegas?
Give us a quick rundown.
Well, okay. The first one was Dead Money, which was fairly. It was really more of a survival horror, but it was one of those scenarios like The Pit where you start off with all your shit and they take it away from you, and you start off with nothing. And I love those challenges in games where, like, I know there's like people who whine and moan because their inventory was emptied, but I like the fact that, oh great, it's just me and my skills, and I had to scrounge up bobby pins in the game. You start off with 0, and that was really entertaining. And with you're in an environment so toxic that just standing still, you're losing hit points. That felt really apocalyptic to me. That you had to get busy and get shit done before the environment wore you down to nothing. So I enjoyed that one. It was sort of it was definitely darker. It definitely had kind of there were homages to Silent Hill in it, but it worked for me. The sort of weird science 50s monster movie one was what was it called? Old World Blues, where you're trapped in this laboratory run by these disembodied brains in jars who are experimenting on you and have stolen your brain. That was sort of interesting too. There was a lot of interesting critters. They finally got to use the lobotomites, which was a creature concept that had been kicked around, I think, all the way back in Fallout 1. They finally there was concept art for it way back then. And yes, there's there are those packets of equipment that came. Those ones you could get that were downloaded. The ones you could get with the special download codes.
Yeah.
Those were just gear sort of expansions. That and the Gunrunner's Arsenal. I can't remember what it was called. Was it the Lone Wanderers Classic Pack or something like that? But those were just gear things. But the adventures were Old World Blues. Let's see, the Lonesome Road, Dead Money, and Honest Hearts. And I really liked Lonesome Road. It was a different kind of environment again. They presented you this environment with you're down in these caverns where this giant earthquake has opened up and the city has fallen into these caverns. So as you're going through the buildings, they've tilted the world. None of the buildings are. You're going through buildings that are off center and twisted around, and that environment was fairly interesting. I like that. There were whole caverns where there were cities buried in the caverns by the earthquakes, and you work your way through these subterranean environments. That was all right, but
kind of reminds me of scenes of things you might have seen in Thundar the Barbarian.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It definitely owed some to that. And of course, the final confrontation for that one was in a missile silo during a countdown to launch a second launch of nuclear missiles. So it was all right. It was pretty good. But the one that always got me was Honest Hearts, because it came back to something that hadn't really been used that much in Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3, which was tribals. In Fallout 2, you start off as a primitive screwhead. You have a loincloth and a spear and a knife, and you are living with some, primitive screwheads up in the mountains, and you descend out of the mountains and encounter the rest of the Fallout world. But rather than come from a vault where you are isolated and cut off from the outside world and have to discover it for the first time, you come from an isolated village in the mountains. And there was a lot of tribals in Fallout 2. These sort of people who had reverted back to living like American Indians or Celts or something like that. And one of the things I really liked about Honest Hearts was it was in an isolated area, and it was filled with these tribals who were fighting each other. And that was really interesting to me, and the story of the survivalist in Honest Hearts, where you're going from cave to cave and you find the journals of this guy who lived in the Zion State Park right after the war, and you collect all his journals, and that was a really good story, and I really enjoyed picking up every scrap of that along the way until finally you find his skeleton and his duffel bag and his, cool, unique rifle up on top of an arroyo where he's crawled off to die so that the new tribals who are living in the valley, who have somehow decided he's a god, and they think he's a supernatural spirit, and they refer to him as the old man in the cave, which, if you remember the Twilight Zone episode...
Yep. Was a computer.
Yeah. But he has been coming out of the cave and protecting them for decades. And they've now sort of developed this mythology about him. So he crawls off to die someplace they'll never find his body, so the mythology will live beyond him. And I just thought that whole story was absolutely amazing. Plus, it rained. You're going through Honest Hearts, and out of the fucking blue it starts to rain, and my first thought was, oh shit, it's going to be horrible Fallout acid rain. I'm going to start losing hit points until I can run over and find some shelter, because everything else in Fallout was horrible. Why shouldn't the rain be horrible?
Oh, of course.
And then I'm not melting down like the Wicked Witch of the West. I'm like, oh, this is great. I don't know how the story's going to end, but I am going to kill any motherfucker who tries to fuck this place up, because it's, the water was clean and there's no radiation hazards. It rained, I'm like, okay, this is paradise, and I'm gonna have to kill some motherfuckers if they're gonna screw with this after having gone through the hell of everybody else in the wasteland. And it really weirdly had a very strong emotional attachment to me.
Nice. So New Vegas, a lot of content. You could spend.
But the game ends. Once you make your, once you go back,
there is a definitive ending.
You pick a side, whether it's the Caesar's Legion, the NCR, Mr. House, or you can become the warlord of New Vegas. And and every ending is different. But once that ending happens, finito.
Well, it's been a while, so they're probably not going to come back and put a patch on that one. So,
no.
But we'll see. But we'll see what happens. I'm sure they'll make another one eventually. Because again,
there's probably a mod out there somewhere right now.
Oh, well, if you're playing on the PC or Mac, I'm sure you could do that. But so again, overall, folks, there's a lot of games. Especially there's a lot of content. Again, there's the original games. You got Fallout 3, a lot of content. You got the first two PC games. Which, again, if you like a little retro gaming, they are available out there. Wasteland's out there. Wasteland 2 is coming out.
Yep, that'll be here before Fallout 4, so you might as well enjoy yourself some Wasteland 2. However, Wasteland 2 very much looks like, the graphics are a little better, but the demos I've seen online, it's a 3/4 overhead view of the action, so it looks very much like Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and the original XCOM. Although again, the art is much superior to XCOM. It's much superior to those games back in the '80s, or the '90s. Excuse me.
So that's coming out, but it's going to be coming out on PC and Mac probably. So I'm not going to be able to play that because it's not a console game. So
I bought it for Mac. I supported the Kickstarter.
Okay.
When it first came out.
It was a very, very successful Kickstarter, if I remember correctly. So one of the big ones. So there's a lot with the Fallout franchise. Again, we could talk on and on and on, but we're not.
Yes, we could. And if he would let me, I would do it. But he's the one standing in the way of me talking more.
Yes, we have to do that sometimes. But folks, there's a lot. There's a lot of good stuff out there with the Fallout. And it's easily accessible. Fallout 3, there's a lot. Fallout New Vegas, there's a ton of stuff out there.
Now.
They're cheap. It's not.
You can pick it up for. I want to say the last time I saw a price on Steam, it was like $15, and some of these Game of the Year editions are going for.
It has all the downloadable content, and it's pretty cheap. So you could get everything pretty cheap. So if you get an opportunity, if you haven't played it already, folks, and you like gaming, and you like the apocalypse, they're very good games for that. So. Yeah. So we're gonna stop talking about Fallout for this week. And
I have to add one last thing.
no.
Being stupid.
I'm gonna mute you.
Oh, come on, the being stupid part.
Okay.
In Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, they were so dedicated to creating dialogue trees. They actually had like dialogue trees that would only unlock if you made a character whose intelligence was out of a 10 was like a 3 or a 2. If you made a moron, he'd just wander up to people and just say, "Me need water chip," or something, or "unk water chip," and your character was a blithering idiot. People go, "Oh, aren't you simple?" And sometimes they'd give you like, "Here's some bottle caps because you're obviously a special."
Stupid.
Or here's a muffin, or whatever. And the only person you could talk to in the whole game, I think it's in Fallout 2, is you finally find some retarded cowherder who, when you encounter him, he speaks like Alistair Cook off Masterpiece Theater, and suddenly your dialogue tree is like, "Oh, my good man, it is so wonderful to meet someone who understands the King's English." But everyone else, you spend the whole game being a retard, and it's really difficult to get any experience points through. You can't talk your way or negotiate your way out of anything, and that was kind of awesome. Now, they didn't really have that option in Fallout 3. You could make a stupid character, but it wouldn't matter. But Fallout 4 brought that back, where it actually affects the way that your character interacts in a number of the scenarios if you're completely stupid. And I have started, but not finished, a Fallout 4 playthrough with my character Tardy, who is going to dumb his way through the wasteland and see how it changes the gameplay.
Tardy. That's a very PC. That's a very PC name, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I named him after my favorite turtle on the TV show Greg the Bunny. That's
Tardy.
Right.
That's
Tardy
right.
the turtle.
And as we all know, we're not very PC here. So
no, we're really not. Now that I've said the thing about the stupid, please cut me off.
Yes. So again, Fallout Vegas, Fallout 3, again, a lot of good stuff there, folks. So I'm sure we'll talk about it again some other time. Next time, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I'm kicking around some ideas. We might talk about thinking some post-apocalyptic television, but that kind of reality, real-life television stuff like The Colony, the pilot Apocalypse Man, and some of these other shows like Life Without People, things that are not just scripted dramas. So maybe we might talk about that, or we might just talk about another type of apocalypse. Maybe we'll talk about the alien apocalypse. I'm not sure yet, folks. So we're kicking around some ideas, and when we know, we'll let you know in the last minute.
But we'll be back in 2 weeks.
We will be back in 2 weeks. Hold on, my schedule's been so fucked up lately. That's why.
This is what you get for having potential in-laws during the Christmas holiday season. Sorry, the Hanukkah holiday season. I apologize to you and the members of your tribe.
Hanukkah, Thanksgiving, and the full-time corporate job where I traveled for 2 weeks within a month.
I would like to point out that I had a really marvelous Thanksgiving this year.
Thanksgiving? Nice.
Yeah, turkey and latkes, potato latkes. It was awesome.
You can't beat latkes. So.
No.
Yep. So there is nothing pending to delay us for our 2-week return, and again, so we'll be talking some more. So I'm gonna. I
got one. I'm gonna throw it out, and maybe if the people like the idea, they will sign in. Kirsten Haglett, who is Aaron Vanek's wife, apparently did an entire thing on post-apocalyptic cuisine for a LARP that Aaron ran in Los Angeles, and that got me thinking. That might be worth something as well. Anyone likes the idea of post-apocalyptic cuisine? It's not all Soylent Green, kids. Not all of it.
Rat on a stick and
yes, exactly.
You know what? That's something we talked about post-apocalyptic currency. We could talk about definitely sustenance. Because where are you getting your food? Are you eating from what was the can in Mad Max 2?
Dinky D.
Dinky D dog food. Yes,
Yeah.
it's not all Dinky D dog food, folks. You know?
Not to mention that gets me. I get to go back and do more Fallout New Vegas because there are all those recipes you could cook.
That's right.
From the game, and I will point out, I have actually made food based on Fallout New Vegas recipes. Holy crap!
You are hardcore, sir.
It was delicious. Cook's beef stew was awesome. You know, for a pyromaniac rapist, he really knew how to cook a good beef stew.
Well, there's no, just because, well, look at Hannibal Lecter.
Exactly. That doesn't exclude him from being a good cook. Not in any way.
Exactly. And I'm sure a lot of those recipes were probably actually based on real life recipes. They just, tweaked them a little bit.
The beef stew with the beer, potatoes, jalapenos, and beef, yeah, that worked. That completely worked as a recipe. But anyways, my vote is we should consider that. We should contact Kirsten and see what she thinks. But if anyone else out there wants to hear about post-apocalyptic cuisine as demonstrated in movies, games, novels, please shout out, and we will give you the post-apocalyptic cuisine.
And actually, just to add on to that, that's not the first time you've actually gotten some food recipes from not just a game but also television. Didn't you learn how to make from Ken Foray and From Beyond? You learned how to
because Ken Foray made chicken and dumplings in the movie From Beyond. I thought, wow, that looks really, the face Ken Foray made when he smelled his food seemed so. He seemed so ecstatic over it. That I'll have to try that. Turns out, what did it turn out? It had been on set for like 12 hours and it had gone bad.
Yeah.
And it was rotten. And Ken Foray still made the yummy face, even though it was spoiled. Yeah, it was something like that.
But you learned how to make your chicken and dumplings from Ken Foray and From Beyond.
That's right. That's right.
So this is not your first. This is not your first foray. Foray
into
into using media to learn how to cook.
Correct. So, I've never been able to get my recipe for Soylent down right, but
Well, yeah, I think you're lacking a main ingredient. But anyway, so anyway, folks. All right, we're gonna shut up now, and we will see you in 2 weeks. No final words from me. No final words from you. Good night, folks. Thank you for joining us. We will see you soon in the Wastelands.